LZ's clear. Let's get the hell out of here.
10-4.
You adorable.
Though the first-person shooter is a diverse genre full of options focused around all kinds of combat, there are two powerful universal thrills that any shooter needs to induce in you in order to be actually great: the thrill of survival and the thrill of violence. The thrill of survival sparks when you find yourself in a complex environment, faced with an enemy or a group of enemies whom you know can tear you to shreds or blast you to smithereens. The only way you can resolve the ensuing situation is through impressively clever tactics and heart-poundingly tense maneuvers. This is you being forced to face the world, and the game had better make it feel that way. The thrill of violence sparks when you realize how satisfying it is to maim, kill, and destroy what you're surviving. You have enemies who display pain and respond to knives, guns, grenades, and more in all the right ways. You have weapons that offer a spectacular show of stopping power and feel like true-to-life instruments of death. This is the world being forced to face you, and the game had better make it feel that way. To pull off both of these methods of exciting a player just adequately is a feat of strength. And I can't think of any title in recent gaming history stronger in this regard than Serious Sam 3 BFE. Serious Sam 3 tells of humanity's struggle against galactic Lord Mental and his horde of countless minions. As mankind's last and best hope for survival, you are Sam Stone, sent on a journey to power up an alien time travel device in order to travel back to the past and stop Mental's threat to the planet before it starts. This empty shell of a plot is the backdrop to a journey across Cairo to kill tens of thousands of enemies who would like literally nothing more than to make you die horribly. Sam 3's thrill of survival rears its head as it faces you with massive hordes of functionally diverse enemies. Each one has the goal of spawning somewhere in your general vicinity and doing the best its puny mind can muster in order to damage you. While the premise sounds rather brainless enemies do not make for a brainless challenge. Because each enemy has a different job on the battlefield, you'll find yourself adapting constantly to whatever situation Mental presents you with. You'll find yourself weaving your way through and around flocks of baddies, deciding constantly which weapon is best to deal with which enemy. The game comes packed with all of the enemies that made its predecessors great, and none of the ones that didn't. Immediately threatening enemies like the explosive headless kamikaze encourage you to run away and kill them from a distance. Charging enemies like the skeleton or the bull make you dodge attacks and turn around to shoot them when their rampages have failed. Stationary enemies like the machine gun-toting scorpion or the zombified shotgunner and rifleman force you to circle strafe and rush through them as quickly as possible. With enemies like these, you already have a nice dynamic challenge in front of you that keeps you on your feet with survival on your mind. But the enemies that Sam 3 introduces make your experience even better and more challenging. Each addition to the franchise has more specific functions, not only adding new elements to the gameplay, but more variety to the whole campaign. Space monkeys leap around quickly and stick to walls and columns that obscure them from your sight as they wait to strike when you look away. The tentacle monster-controlled helicopter bombards you with machine gun fire from the skies as you wrestle with all the enemies on the ground. The creepy teleporting witch flies around and chokes you unless you find a place to hide, making you more and more vulnerable to the attacks of other enemies. As the challenges get greater and the arenas grow wider, your arsenal increases in size and versatility as well. Each gun is effectually different, and serves its own specific purpose in a fight, and some have upgraded versions that can do more damage but also have lower rates of fire. The variety of weapons adds to how you solve each situation. With a consistently dynamic battlefield, you find yourself switching weapons to dispatch each enemy with as much finesse as possible, making judgments based on its strategy, speed, and location, as well as the presence of other enemies nearby. The whole package is an adventure in extreme skill that is just unbelievably thrilling, but the challenge alone isn't enough to make a shooter. This is where the violence comes in, and SAM 3 is about as gloriously violent as games can be. Nearly every morsel of the game is beautifully satisfying, not only because you get to kill enemies, but because you feel like you're slaughtering them with all the raw force that you should feel. Every enemy is designed impeccably with fluid animation, grotesque features, and wonderful sound design that resonates through the game world. They react to a wide variety of stimuli, making their injuries and deaths very diverse. A shotgun to the face, for instance, will have an effect that is just as amazing as, but completely different to, a barrage of ranged rifle fire. Enemies turn to giblets or splatter blood all over, and some even crawl around and writhe in pain before dying. What this excitement of killing that SAM 3 provides means is that it promises you more and more violence, and it delivers too. The game nudges you to keep playing even though it has already tired you out with its massive challenges. It encourages you to run into a crowd of monsters rather than simply backpedal and shoot. It makes you target certain enemies and go into danger where you know they're going to try to hurt you, because it means you also get the chance to utterly destroy them. A good example is the Space Monkey, because you could generally just wait for it to jump out at you, but it's so much more fun to hunt them down and fill them with holes until they fall to the ground when they think they have enough of an upper hand to hurt you. The tools you use to cause this bedlam are 2 notches above amazing. The real action takes place with the shotgun, minigun, and rocket launcher, which all feel absolutely perfect. But the assault rifle, pistol, and sledgehammer are all excellent fallback weapons too. Apart from the surprisingly quiet assault rifle, each instrument of mayhem is almost musically great sounding. Every gun, though pinpoint accurate, has an excellent amount of kick that corresponds exactly to the amount of damage it does. The sledgehammer is possibly the most satisfying hammer in action game history, and the added ability to spin it around and take out clusters of enemies as their blood splatters over your screen is awesome. Contextual melee attacks go by pretty fast, but they're all ludicrously violent, and the ability to take out an enemy's heart or tear off an enemy's head and throw it at the monsters in its wake is both gratifying and fun. The environment plays a large role in what makes the gunplay so satisfying as well. Though a lot of it earlier on in the campaign is very static, there is quite a bit of it that makes it feel like part of a living, breathing world. Nearly every shot you fire produces clouds of dust where it impacts, which adds greatly to the atmosphere of a desert city. Explosive barrels and C4 charges produce smoke in every direction, and foliage and trees sway in response. Also, the soundtrack is perfect. Up there with games like Bastion and Rock of Ages, it feels heavily Egyptian, with a big focus on electric guitar and heavy percussion that coincides with the action, while making those rare peaceful moments so much more relieving. SAM 3's slightly distant future world is in a state of decay too, and the structures you encounter are heavily damaged and fully detailed to a level of beauty similar to Metro 2033's Dead Moscow. Apart from the dense, destroyed city parts of Cairo, are massive Egyptian ruins, unlike the fresh preserved world showcased in Serious Sam the First Encounter, and very complementary to the war-torn buildings of the inner city are the Egyptian remains, destroyed mainly from age rather than war. Every bit of the game world is immaculately detailed, with secrets, Easter eggs, and little bits of history that add an unnecessarily significant yet clever amount of backstory to the world. With the amazing amount of caring detail put into both survival and bedlam, SAM 3 makes both you and the universe you face feel alive. it at the same time puts you in the shoes of the last competent man on Earth and still makes you feel like the greatest person alive. Very few shooters are able to claim anything remotely that kick-ass. Of course, being the last competent man alive isn't as fun as being more competent than your friends. Serious Sam 3 features a 16-player co-op mode for the entire campaign. The game isn't designed specifically for co-op shenanigans like Killing Floor or Left 4 Dead. Rather, it simply pits you and as many of your Steam buddies as possible into the story that you would face normally all by yourself, and the only real way to cooperate is by more than one of you aiming at the same monster. This leads to a still somewhat cooperative but more competitive style of play, as you challenge yourself to steal all of everybody else's kills. It's a nice diversion, but it neither really trumps the joyous single player like you would hope, nor does it make other co-op focused games any less relevant. It's not as good as it really could have been had more work been put into it, but it's still a great amount of fun of a different brand than what's offered in solo play. The story is something that hasn't mattered in Serious Sam, and really in most shooters, so I never thought I'd see the day that I'd say this, but Sam 3's story is extraordinary. The plot, of course, is incredibly thin, but the narrative is coherent and compelling, and Sam Stone has some of the sharpest humor that I've ever seen in a game. The world is full of interesting details that hint at what's going on beneath the seemingly wimpy shell of a story, and the active narrative comes up with all kinds of creative reasons and spectacular set pieces to keep you going from point A to point B. All of the writing is delightful, and almost all of the jokes are genuinely clever and immature. Everything happens in cutscenes and in-game communications, so the storytelling paces itself nicely by bookending chapters, while doing very little to interfere with any of the action. When you see this game on the Steam store, you'll notice that it claims to be a throwback to the golden age of FPS, but it isn't at all. It's only a throwback to the Serious Sam franchise that began roughly 10 years ago. Shooters can still be endlessly amazing, regardless of when they're made, and nothing has stopped Crow Team from making living proof of this. This certainly isn't the golden age for shooters, but shooters are by no means lying dormant. That a game like Sam 3 can come out of the woodwork and feature genuinely challenging, nuanced gameplay is a testament to how awesome video games are. And Serious Sam 3 BFE is one of the best.
Still gonna need more gas than that.